Welcome to the Limitless podcast. My name is Byron Sakha and I'll be your host for the show, where we are dedicated to bringing you the latest and greatest insights, tools and strategies to help you take your mind, business, relationships and physical health to limitless heights. In this episode, we have Tom Cartright, who is the founder of Cartright Coaching and is an alcohol reduction specialist. You'll be hearing about Tom's inspiring story involving his battle with alcohol and gambling addiction, as well as his journey to recovery and empowerment. He has a ton of knowledge and knows the industry back to front, so stay tuned for some epic tools and wisdom on how you can break free of any destructive habits that you may be wanting to overcome once and for all. I trust you'll find it full of valuable insights, so enjoy, and I look forward to hearing and reading your reviews and comments after the show. Welcome to another episode of Limitless. We have a really exciting guest today. We have Tom Cartright of Cartright Coaching. Tom is an addiction specialist with a main focus on alcohol reduction and all things related to breaking harmful habits and getting on a track of wellness and a path that's truly fulfilling. So Tom, welcome. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to rock out with you.
We actually just had an hour of tech issues, so we're really excited to be having the recorders work now. So Tom, tell us, I always like to ask a bit of a lighthearted question to begin with, to give the listeners a bit of an insight. Tell us, what is your funniest moment in the last couple of years that you can remember?
What are you doing to me? What is my funniest moment in the last couple of years?
Bit of a tough one.
That is a tough moment, Byron. That is a tough moment.
Well, I asked people's favourite foods, people's favourite movie, and then that just came to me now.
My funniest moment was probably the last time I heard a question like this, but it wasn't. I was on stage. It was like one of the first times I'd spoken. They asked me the question, so what's a secret fun fact about yourself? And my immediate rebuttal was the truth, because I talk from the heart. But I was like, I just really love romantic comedies.
Romantic comedies? Yeah. I do too, actually.
I love the movie What Women Want.
Nice.
Yeah, with
Mel Gibson. That's a good one.
But that was a funny moment, because I was standing in front of a room with about 50 people, and please be aware, for anyone that's listening, public speaking was my biggest fear up until 3 years ago. Yeah, so being asked that question and then just rebuttaling from the heart, and they found it pretty funny.
Awesome. Well, Tom, can you give us a little bit of a background? So what made you get into, because now you've got, for those who already know you, they know how established you are, and Cartright Coaching, it's a name that's becoming well known throughout New South Wales and the country. What got you into, before coaching, what was your experience with the field of addiction that got you interested even in that realm of, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Where have you come from to get to where you are now?
How deep do I go?
As deep as
your listeners open?
Yeah, we're like raw and open.
So, wow, what started? To be really honest, the beginning of the journey to, some people call it self-discovery, personal development, some people even call it enlightenment. Whatever you want to call it, this all began and started from solving problems for myself, really, or wanting to at least solve problems for myself. Yeah. What I mean by problems for myself, to be honest, by the time I was 19, 20 years old, I was very heavy into the party scene, the Australian drinking culture. I was drinking 6, sometimes 7 nights a week till 3, 4 a.m, ending up in hospital. Just such an immature kind of approach to life. But at the same time, when I say that, whilst I take full responsibility for my results, that was the tribe that I grew up in, So what I mean by that is, for someone who was lacking a bit of self-esteem and self-confidence going through school, you very quickly grab onto whatever identity you can to help you feel good. And the identity that helped me feel good was the identity of being, the smart-ass, joker, fun-loving, entertaining kid. And one of the perfect ways to enable that fun-loving, joker, charismatic, entertaining kid was to turn 17 or 18 and start drinking a lot, because there's nothing more you can do than when you're under the influence than be a joker, be an entertainer, and let deep parts of yourself come out. So I very quickly took on an identity of someone who drinks and drinks a lot, and who also gambles and gambles a lot, and that's how I gained my significance for years. If anybody ever wanted to party, I was the person to call. If anybody wanted to
rely on you for a good time, right?
Always rely on me for a good time, in a very dysfunctional sense. I have a hell of a time these days, but it's much more functional behaviour.
Okay. I think also because it's such a big part of the Australian culture, isn't it? Drinking. It's everywhere you look on the weekends. It's like whenever there's a bit of boredom, it's like, let's hit the drinks, we'll go for beers, watch the rugby or the sports games or the nightclub, the pubs after work. It's such an ingrained part of our culture, isn't it? And I think for I can certainly relate. When I was younger, it was just the thing to do, to drink. So tell us about what happened that led to a point where you realized something needed to change. So did it get particularly bad? I mean, I know a lot of your story, but I want for the listeners who are maybe hearing it for the first time. How bad did it get? What happened? Or was there a turning point? What led to you go on the journey of self-discovery?
So what I say with addiction in the party scene, it's never a problem unless it's a problem. What I mean by that is it's all well and fun when addiction, partying, doing drugs, gambling is like the icing on the cake, which means you have your own identity, you know who you are, and you sometimes choose to utilize those external substances for a special occasion or something. But when it's the other way around, when the addiction is the cake and it's not the icing on the cake, when it's the cake, what I mean by that is, for me to survive meant I had to party, I had to drink, do drugs and gamble. If I didn't do that, I had no idea who I was. It was anxiety and depressive states and things like that. So for me, I realized that I had what's called a bottled identity. My identity was bottled within substance and alcohol abuse. So, fast forward 2 or 3 years, I was in debt $30,000 to the Commonwealth Bank because they kept giving me credit cards. I don't know if they were aware or not, but yes, I was just cash advancing at a 35% interest rate, $800, $1,000 off these credit cards at the casino ATM, at pub ATMs.
To fund gambling and drinking.
Yeah, just fun gambling and drinking. I'd go out and just, a lot of people do this behaviour, but I was doing it to the detriment of myself. I was putting down $1,000 bar tabs and everyone was just drinking, and I was because it made me feel safe, I'm important. But it's not so much how much I was drinking and gambling that hits such the pain point. The pain point is that when you wake up constantly regretting the things that you did the night before, that's where pain really starts to build. So by the time I was about 23, it wasn't until then that I really started to notice it was a problem. I used to blow it off I just love doing this behaviour. I'm enjoying myself. I don't care about my career. I don't care about relationships. But by the time I was 30, it started to become a problem. When I was drinking, by the time I was 23, it started to become a problem.
Jump forward.
By the time I was 23, it became a problem because the 6 to 7 nights a week was starting to drink.
That means 6 to 7 nights a week.
Literally 6 to 7 nights a week. And it wasn't up until finding coaching, which I'll talk about. I wasn't able to have more than one beer and stop. It was once I had one beer, I'd keep going till I was either in hospital or I was just passed out drunk somewhere. There was no off switch at all. It was just go, go, go. But what started to happen is I started to become really unhappy with life. And, I remember sitting on the couch one time. I was living at my parents' place. I was about, as I said, 23 years old. And my mum came up to me on the couch and she said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, why would you ask me that? And she said, well, you've actually been on the couch all day. You don't normally sit on the couch. You're normally out with your friends. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And the next morning I woke up and I thought to myself, why was I on the couch all day? That's not normally something I do. I'm normally out drinking or partying, doing stuff. And very quickly after that, that day and that moment of my mum kind of noticing that maybe I wasn't happy, I started to develop a lot of anxiety. And all of a sudden I was having panic attacks on my couch. I was lying there and I couldn't breathe properly. And then I started to think I started to question my identity around drugs and alcohol and stuff. And I thought to myself, well, if I no longer feel like doing drugs and alcohol, who the hell am I? And I didn't know how to answer that question. So within a couple of weeks from then, I went to see a general practitioner, a doctor, and within 15 minutes from speaking to me, he said, "Oh, here's some antidepressants. You've got depression. Take these." And he said, "By the way, you may have suicidal thoughts." So I went home and had...
Really kind of put that suggestion on there.
Oh, it was a great suggestion. Yeah, thanks so much. Like I'm being sarcastic. Because I went home, took the antidepressants, and the next morning I had a vision of hanging myself. And that scared me so bad, so I threw them in the bin. And very quickly from then I started to experience depressed states. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go anywhere. People would ask me to go and do things. I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel like going to work. I started hating work. I was in the hospitality industry. So I do have a lot of compassion for individuals who are experiencing addiction, and then even trying to get away from the addiction, it's almost like life gets worse. You know, it was for me. I was like, this is worse than partying all the time. But letting down family and friends, feeling guilt, feeling depressed, feeling shame of like there's something wrong with me was the scariest time in my life.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
It's a full-on experience to have gone through, and it's so amazing you can talk about it so openly now, because I certainly am aware of, and I imagine that there's a lot of people who can relate, where they're finding themselves sort of stuck in that mouse wheel, that they've got some less than ideal habits, particularly when it comes to the nighttime scene of drinking or doing drugs, and it's a heavy form of escapism, where there's not much inspiration going on in their lives, or they're lacking some significant meaning in other more functional outlets, whether it be an exciting career or great relationships or whatever it may be. And if we're not experiencing those things, then there is that tendency, isn't it, where it's, okay, I'll have the extra drink, because then I don't have to go back to... How much do you think it relates to an avoidance mechanism from some kind of void or some kind of feeling of emptiness that's, say, if we don't have a fulfilling career, or we don't have an exciting vision for where we're heading, where we're working towards, so we'll take that short-term gratification instead as a way to fill that void. Just share your thoughts on escapism and filling the void, and perhaps what the alternate can look like, so people can maybe get a picture of, okay, I can relate to, I'll turn to a drink anytime I'm bored, or if I don't have much going on, so I'll just call up the mates and whoever's up for a drink, or get on the bags, or whatever the drug of choice may be of an evening. But what does the alternate look like that could help people to resist some of those shorter term urges? So get a bit of light on that.
Yeah, for sure. When we talk about escapism, it always is escapism. You know, I heard a few years ago someone say this, and I thought, you know what, that's a very healthy definition of addiction, which is addiction is the need to feel something in order not to feel something else. I'll say it again, addiction is the need to feel in order not to feel something else. As a young man, I'll just be open and honest, I had no direction and clarity over where I was going in life. I had no idea where I wanted to go. Most importantly, I had no idea who I wanted to be. No one wants to sit on the couch with those thoughts. Nobody wants to sit on the couch and not have the answers to their own internal questions. It's actually really confronting. It's very uncomfortable. And I like to kind of decategorize, because when we talk about addiction, so often people think straight away, like hard substance abuse. You know, someone says, Tom, you must work with people like that are really struggling, like can't hold careers together. And I respond, no, that's like addiction. The old approach to addiction is one of the biggest problems in the first place. I'll give an example. We grow up in a world, a person living in Sydney in Australia, where when you turn 17, 18 years old, maybe 19, for those people that are a little bit later to it, to be honest, we grow up in a world where it's like, once you turn 18, you drink alcohol, and you don't drink a little bit of alcohol, you drink a lot. You want to celebrate, drink alcohol. You want to feel and grieve and experience loss, you drink alcohol. It's like, come to the party and drink alcohol. And then some of us, like myself, we become successful at it. We drink so well, we become too good at it. And then the day I'm sitting on the couch, I need to, confess to a professional or a family member that I might be drinking too much. All of a sudden the tribe turns and it's like, and the energy changes. And it's like, have you got a problem? maybe you should go to a secret rehab. And I was like, wait, what? What am I meant to do now? I'm caught in two worlds where I feel like I don't really fit in with the drinking culture and party culture, but I don't also want to identify as someone who's a shameful addict. Like, I don't want to identify as that. I'm just a lost kid. I just don't know where I'm going in life. Yeah. And that's where it can be so tough, because it's like, well, how do I escape both of these realities now? One's like, hide from the drinking culture. Okay, I'll do it at home on the couch. The other one's like, but traditionally to get help, I need to apparently identify as an addict and go to secret meetings and secret rehab clinics and things like that. Yeah. So trying to avoid that, it's like, what behaviors do we have? Like, what behaviors do we have?
It can become very confusing, can't it?
So confusing.
It's like, okay, what I'm doing is destructive. And as you touched on also, just to rewind it a tiny bit, that not all addiction has to be that substance abuse or even alcohol. Sometimes people are heavily addicted to their careers and working 20 hours a day. So it's an addiction to work because they're not dealing with some of the other areas that may be lacking, so their health or loneliness from not having an intimate relationship or something like that. So they'll bury themselves in something. Same with even gym addicts. It's their whole life revolves around gym and fitness and dieting and health, but then they're not. It's also an escape from not attending to, say, career challenges or aspirations or relationships, etc. So this, as you've said, there's many forms of addiction. I'd love to, if we could elaborate on what someone can do when they're feeling really confused, because I can certainly see how it is confusing that if part of the culture you've grown up in or that you're part of, and it's like drinking is celebrated and you get crowned sometimes as the biggest drinker, and then after a while you realize that it's quite destructive. It's interfering with your ability to focus, or you're feeling regret the next day, and therefore your mind is cloudy and you're starting to feel, perhaps less than ideal mental well-being. But then you don't want to also feel like I've got major problems and that there's something wrong with me. And so therefore I don't want to go to a clinic or a specialist that's going to label me with something. So it's like, I don't want that. What does someone do when they're feeling torn between, do I pull back from my group, my tribe, my group of friends that this, it was fun, but it's no longer as fun anymore, but I also don't want to feel like there's something wrong with me and I've got to go and get treatment, so to speak. What's some advice you could maybe give to someone who's feeling a little bit just torn?
There's two parts to it to begin with. The first one is being aware that your perception and your view or approach to moving forward makes all the difference. We don't move forward when we feel shameful. So, and I say this for the individuals that are listening that don't want to take a traditional approach, to feel shamed, like they have a problem, like they're a category of people over there that need support. For those listeners and viewers that want a different approach, the approach that I take is that I'm not sharing these messages because I think people have problems. I share them because they want a solution. And now anybody in the world, no matter where you are in life, if you want a solution, you want more for yourself, I think that's effing awesome. Like, that is amazing. When I share that with clients, especially those that are feeling so low and less than others, they go, nine times out of 10, they respond to me like, they lean forward and they go, Tom, I do want more for myself. I go, that feels good, doesn't it? They go, it feels good. And I say, awesome, do you want to move forward? And they go, But like myself, when I went to a doctor in the day and I was like, treating me like I was an injured animal, I didn't want to move forward. In fact, if anything, I wanted to leave and go straight to the pub. So the second thing is to notice as well that looking at addiction this way is really beneficial. Addiction is stress reduction. So if we say addiction is the need to feel in order not to feel something else, all that means is we are reducing stress. And every single person on the planet is addicted. Point me to someone who says they're not addicted to anything, I'll point you to a liar. So the way you look at it is, to someone who smokes a lot of marijuana or takes a lot of MDMA pills or ecstasy pills, they'll look at someone with an ice addiction and say, well, at least I'm not like that person. Now, somebody that smokes cigarettes a lot will look at the person with the MDMA or the smoking pot and say, well, at least I don't do those drugs. Now, the person that drinks too much alcohol will look at the person that smokes and goes, at least I'm not doing that to my lungs. Now, the person that spends all of their money and they're addicted to shopping and purchasing things that they don't need, they'll look to the person with the alcohol addiction and go, yeah, but at least I'm not doing that. Now, to the person that binge eats. The person that binge eats will look at the person with the shopping addiction and go, yeah, I know I eat too much food and it's not good for my health, but at least I'm not spending all my money. Look at that person. Yeah. We'll keep going. To the person that procrastinates and doesn't get off the couch, even though they say they want to pursue a career or relationship, they'll procrastinate and say, I'm not addicted to procrastination. And even if I am, at least I'm not doing that. Look at least I'm not binge eating. And we can just go all the way down to patterns that people would never have thought are addictions, but they are. We are all running behavioural patterns for stress reduction. Yeah. If we can really, truly comprehend that, we can take a bit of a breath and, wow, so everyone's running stress reduction patterns? Even Tom, even Byron? Yes. It just depends on the functionality of your stress reduction patterns. Yeah. Give you an example. I experienced a lot of uncertainty earlier this week. There's a lot going on. Healthy stress. Doesn't matter if it's healthy or dysfunctional. A lot of uncertainty out there. Uncertainty, so discomfort, like, wow, there's so much going on. The niggling thing in the back of the head, like, there's stuff going on. I took the day off. I took my wife out to lunch. We giggled. We mucked around. To some people, that would be like, oh, you should keep working. It's like, no, I actually just had to do that.
According to who? That's the
according to who. Yesterday, I took the afternoon off to play golf, but the thing in my brain was like, oh no, do some more work. It's like, no, maybe I'm just addicted to putting myself first and to fulfilling vehicles that make me feel amazing. At the moment, it's the most functional approach that I've got. Yeah. Now, there's a bit of a rabbit hole there. Someone could say, but you're also choosing to do those behaviours, and I'll agree at the same time. It's a bit of a catch-22. Yeah. So that's the first thing that you want to look for. Just the approach to looking at addiction and substance reduction is where all the difference is made. Yeah. So if people are understanding that and really thinking that now, I can actually answer your question, which is probably what's the first approach? The first approach is to realise or ask yourself, how would you like to learn how to look after yourself during times of stress? That's the question you've got to answer. When I was 23 years old, I would have answered with, I like to drink alcohol. Today I respond with, I like to focus on my wife. I like to focus on my golf game. Yeah, so that's the first thing I'd ask viewers to ask themselves: how would I like to reduce stress if I am experiencing stress, which we all do? And that's the first thing that we want to ask. Yeah. This is an emotional intelligence game. This has nothing to do with substance. This is about our level of emotional intelligence, which is, what emotions do I have? How do I feel them truly, authentically when they arise? And when's it appropriate to do so?
Yeah, love it. Thanks so much for sharing that. It really helps to look at it way more objectively than there's something wrong with us, or there's a huge problem and it's like so dark and gloomy. It can be, well, hey, we've got some awareness around this now. Are we getting the results we want with the current? This is my personal mantra or philosophy, and I share this with anybody who is happy to hear it, is, how are your results working out for you? So whether if you drink the occasional time, but you're still booming with your health, your relationships, your career is growing and your family is awesome and you've got awesome friends that are healthy and functional and you support each other, wonderful. Your results are great. If you're not drinking, but your career is pretty dismal and your health's lacking and all that, then it's like, okay, that's not really yielding great results either. So I think the biggest or simplest place to start is just have a look at the different areas of life and go, well, how are they working out so far? Am I achieving results that I'm enjoying or I'm not? And if we're not, that's when it's like, cool, what could I maybe do about this? And then looking at it, as you said, not in a way that, there's something wrong with me and that I'm now embarrassed to admit it, or it's shameful. It can be looked upon, as you said, approach it in a light where it's, okay, what would I like the results, how would I like them to be different? How would I like things to be? When we look at it in a more positive view, then it doesn't have to be so daunting, does it? It can be quite, which is what I love hearing how you share that sometimes with your clients, just asking them a simple question of how would you like things to be different? It can be such a breath of fresh air, because it's not like, let's talk about your whole life and let's, I want to hear about how it all made you feel and all that sort of traditional.
How long have you been doing the addiction? Where did it come from? Which family members in the past have been addicted?
Let's psychoanalyze every little milestone of your life, which is, that's where I from my time in the industry of healthcare and that sort of thing, you see people just cringe at that. The whole like, oh, do we have to just talk about my feelings all day long? Versus, I think in nowadays there's such a more modern, practical, easier approach to creating change. It doesn't have to be this big, daunting, scary thing. It's like, that's why I'm so thrilled to have you on the show, because I want to share with people that if they've got any habits that they're not loving and potentially some addictions that aren't working for them, it's like, go and see Tom. It'll be fun to create change. It doesn't have to be this scary thing. Tom and I have known each other for a few years now. We've had lots of powwows and plenty of conversations and shared some of our own internal conflicts or struggles with each other, and we've pulled each other out of them. We've brainstormed some epic ideas, and so this is why I really want people to hear the message that change can be as enjoyable as we allow it to be. It doesn't have to be this big thing where there's something wrong with us to want change. It's just, if we're not getting the results we want, hey, let's change our approach.
Yeah.
And it can be so much more enjoyable versus staying because sometimes, Tom, how much do you see that the reason people might not do it is because it's more comfortable just to keep things the way they are, even though they're not happy with the results and they're not really experiencing fulfillment. But it's like, yeah, but trying something different is scarier. So I'll just keep being subpar happy and fulfilled because at least I know that feeling and I'm familiar with it, versus I don't know what I may uncover if I have to speak to someone, or what may come up. What if I really do find out something so wrong with me? So people just play it safer. What's your thoughts on that? Staying the same versus taking a risk?
Well, we, as natural beings, we generally, if not always, before we learn about ourselves, take the path of least resistance. What that means is we like to know the answers to things. So for example, as I shared earlier, it's much easier for me when I was 23 years old, if I was to sit on the couch and ask myself the questions of, why do I have these problems? I could answer with, because I stuff up, because I drink too much, because I gamble all my money away. I knew the answers, even though they were dysfunctional. Now, but if I sat on the couch, I wasn't drinking, I asked myself the question of, could I find another career? I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to not know the answer to that. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the path of least resistance, often we make decisions based on how we feel in the moment. I was going to share something with you, which is you've got to learn to trust your gut before you trust your gut. I hear too many people making emotional gut-based decisions thinking that they have a clean alignment with their intuition and what's right. A lot of individuals like myself for years did it. That's actually ego. That's the fight or flight response mode. We can't make decisions based on how we feel unless we've learned how to trust what we feel. I'll give you an example. Sitting on the couch and telling myself, I would like to find a career that I'm passionate about, but then feeling like I should go and drink alcohol, so I'd go and drink alcohol all the time. So, that's the unfortunate thing. A lot of us need to build so much pain in life to change because being comfortable isn't enough. One of the beautiful things I love sharing with my clients around, lowering their addiction or overcoming their addiction, letting go of their addiction, is that I share with them, and some people it sits well with some people it doesn't, but I share it anyway. I say one of the things I love about addiction and hitting what might be called rock bottom is that you experience enough pain that you do want to move forward. And I know many individuals, a lot of individuals who have lived a comfortable life, and there's a chance that they'll never get the kick up the butt to change, and that's okay. I'm not judging anyone, that's cool. But specifically for my clients that are experiencing addiction, I think it's an amazing wake-up call. It's almost like the universe saying, hey, you're destined for greatness, you're destined for an amazing life. You're not hearing the messages, let's get into addiction so you can overcome it. Or another term I use is that, especially for my younger clients, I say that they're going through a midlife crisis, very early on, and we get it out of the way now, it's going to be fantastic.
That's cool. I love it. I love the notion that viewing challenges as an opportunity, as a gift in disguise waiting to be discovered. Because as you said, that so often people, if the pain's not painful enough or the challenge isn't big enough, then they'll just remain the same. And therefore, if they're not really satisfied or they feel their existence is a little mediocre, there's nothing propelling them to create change. Whereas I think sometimes we need that big slap in the face, for lack of a better word, or a big obstacle to arise, or a huge challenge, or some real pain to cause us to pause, stop, reflect, and therefore be forced to grow, because that's the only way out of the challenge or the obstacle we're experiencing. Then we realize in hindsight that through that challenge is where our greatest growth occurred. And therefore we realize, wow, if I didn't go through that challenge or that hardship, I wouldn't have found the hidden blessing that was lying within it all along. So I think, viewing challenges as an opportunity and something that comes to serve us rather than it needs to be something we have to run away from. Because some people will do that. They'll try and run further away from challenges and obstacles, and then they fall deeper and deeper into misery. Whereas if we can go, okay, this is a challenge, what are some potential learning opportunities here? Who got to speak to about this? Who's got some results that are similar to the ones I want to experience? Maybe I'll reach out to them, or maybe there's a good book I could pick up, or anything that's going to help us to grow versus hide and dig deeper into our wallowing state, which can exasperate the perceived problem. So let us know what were some of the principles or skills or insights or learnings that helped you to create change in your life.
Well, the first thing is, and like with what you're mentioning there, is that don't settle for comfort, don't settle for mediocre. And what I mean by that is, like, I agree with what you just said. If I didn't experience those panic attacks and those like states of being about to be, or being told that I had depression and things like that, I wouldn't have grown. In fact, I would still be in a hospitality career, just settling, even though I knew I wasn't totally fulfilled with it. And I would still be partying all the time. I would have settled for that. So it was from hitting that, that roadblock. And some people say, oh, you don't need to hit rock bottom. I also agree with that. You don't need to hit rock bottom. And there was deeper that I could have gone to. I didn't go there, so you don't have to. But the first thing, and I always share this, because it's the first thing is just realizing that you're not meant to know the answers. Like, quite often I get the question of like, oh, so what are the first steps? And I've always got to say the actual one that worked for me and that works for my clients. It's well, the first step is just find one person, like one person in your tribe or out of your tribe, or a professional, one person that can actually professionally help you move forward. It's not your job to know the answers. It is your job to ask for the answers. It's not your job to know the answers. It's your job to ask for the answers. And that's it. And that for me started with, to be honest, it wasn't a professional. It was after I threw those depressant pills in the antidepressants in the bin. I went and I knew one of my close friends, and I knew that one of my close friends is his dad had experienced deep addiction, and he'd been like 15 years sober now. And he was like a young he was always at the gym. I saw him there sometimes, and he loved his footy, and he just seemed relatable. And I just went up to him one time and I just said, hey, I know that you've overcome addiction, because he's about it and he supports that industry and things. And I said, do you mind if we grab a coffee? And he knew straight away. He just knew. He said, yeah, sure. Meet me on Monday. And I just sat down with him and he bought me a coffee and we just spoke like this. And there was none of that language around like, it's a big problem, it's going to kill you. None of that. It was just humanizing it. And he just said, you can share anything with me. And I just started to talk and talk and talk, and I just got it all off my chest. And he just looked at me with no judgment. And it was the first time in my life I was just like, I'm not actually going to be judged if I speak to the right person. There's a reason why I spoke to him. So that's literally my first step. Like, you don't need to know the answers. Reach out and speak to one person about it. Trying to do the journey alone is actually reinventing the wheel. Or trying to reinvent the wheel of thousands, like hundreds and thousands of years of people getting the results is because they follow a system and a structure.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, that is working with a professional or having a coffee with myself, having a coffee with you. Like, it doesn't need to be a professional setup, an exchange of money. It can be just an initial contact to start the journey.
Yeah.
Once you do that, you've opened up what might be called the rabbit hole, and you're in the game now.
So good. I think a key distinction that sometimes people misperceive is that to open up or seek help or to even ask a question, it's weakness, and it's something. It implies that there's something wrong with them, that they need help. Whereas I think it's the contrary. It takes great courage and strength to open up, put your hand up and go, you know what, I'm not achieving the results I want. I'm not moving closer to where I really want to be, so I'm going to seek some advice from someone who may be able to help me. That takes massive guts. That takes courage. The opposite of remaining secretly dissatisfied and secretly seeking those short-term escapisms with drinks and alcohol or anything like that's the weakness. I hate to say it. Again, not that it means there's anything wrong with the person. It's just that they're choosing the safer path. Whereas to reach out and contact, say, yourself, to get in touch, that takes courage. And another thing is that reaching out doesn't mean that they're automatically got to get signed up or that they get. I think maybe some people are scared of being sold to straight away if they seek out to a professional. Whereas knowing that you have every right to reach out or message someone or make a phone call, and any real professional would have a chat with you anyway initially to see if there's a good fit and whether there's some value that can be exchanged there. So I think for the listeners to know that, for example, I imagine with you, Tom, if someone got in touch, you'd have a chat with them anyway. You wouldn't be like, here's my program, this is what I do. You'd first want to find out if you can help them, if they're willing to do the work. Because sometimes people want great results, but they're not actually prepared to put the work in. And that's a key distinction as a coach or as a practitioner of well-being. You want to know that if a client's coming along to sign up for a service or something, that they're actually going to do the work. Because if they do, the work works, there's no question about that. We know what we offer can assist people, and we've helped heaps of people to achieve great results. I think the thing is, for people, if they do want to reach out, know that they can reach out to anyone, and make sure that people will spend the time to get to know you a bit, to get to know your situation, and actually be interested in who you are and finding out, flushing out where you want to go, where you've been, what some of the obstacles may be, what may be preventing you from creating change, what have you tried so far that's not worked, so that any true healthcare practitioner can be clear on what they can and cannot offer. And I think well before any money's talked about or anything like that, you want to know that there's a good fit. And I think for someone reaching out, they want to feel really comfortable and assured that their needs will be taken care of.
Can I add to what you were sharing?
Please do,
So the first part of that dialogue there, you're talking about vulnerability being seen as weakness.
Yes.
Someone asked me the other day, like, what have you turned from your biggest weakness and your biggest strength? And no, 10 times out of 10, I respond with, vulnerability is now my biggest strength. I thrive of vulnerability being my biggest strength. And the beauty in that is, like, we've all got to take responsibility for 100% of our results. Part of that responsibility is also knowing when we have been let down. The reason why we feel like reaching out for help is seen as a weakness is not something that we constructed in our minds. We learnt it somewhere. And in this day and age, reaching out for help, yes, a lot of people and organisations are putting a lot of money into normalising it, but in the past it hasn't been. How many people go out and advocate and tell everybody that they're seeing a counsellor? How many people advocate and go out there and tell everyone, I've got my psychology session today? Why is it like that? The reason why for the last 3 years my business has been so funded off referrals is because we're reframing with my clients on how, as I spoke about earlier, they're not with me to solve a problem. They're with me to experience a solution. So many people in the physical world will go out and say, hey, I'm doing a 10K weight loss challenge. You know, hey, I'm getting ready for my first marathon run. I find it really crazy in 2019 that individuals for some reason have been taught by the traditional system that when it comes to mental health, you keep it quiet.
So
when individuals work with me, they obviously understand this message, and they do. They go to their friends that they thought they were going to be judged for. So many of my clients, they go to their friends, they go, oh, I speak to this guy Tommy every week, like, oh, it's so epic, so I'm starting this business, and they get so excited about the results that they've forgotten how bad of a problem the addiction was. And that's a simple mindset change. And that's how you can start to become and notice that vulnerability can be your biggest strength. Vulnerability is the key to be seen as you are. That is it, just to be seen as you are. And I think the more people that realise, like, I think vulnerability is the gateway to so many things. I think vulnerability is the gateway to fulfillment. To be seen as you are is to be open, authentic, and honest with yourself. That's why I shared earlier that it only has to start with one person. I know for myself, when I first went and saw a professional, I didn't go to my work and all of a sudden say, hey everybody, I'm seeing a professional.
At the beginning, it's like new territory.
It is new territory.
Speak about it or what? But after a while, then you've broken through that perception that it's like weakness. It's like, it's quite funny. I share with some of my friends or colleagues where I'll say, give it another 5 years, 10 years, everyone will have a coach of some degree. We've seen it in sport for how many years? We've seen it in business for how many years? Decades. I think it'll get to a stage where people ask each other, oh, so how are your fitness goals going? And people talk about, I got my PT, blah, blah, blah. And then it'll be so normal also to have a coach or a professional that you help with just mental health challenges or stress reduction techniques or goal setting or clarity enhancing practices, whatever it may be. And I think it'll get to a point where people may be out chatting and saying, oh, so who's your coach or something? And if someone turns around and says, coach, I don't have a coach, I think it'll become a point where people say, what? You don't have a coach? How do you deal with all your shit?
I said this yesterday.
How do you deal with all the stuff that goes on in your head? And then I think that's when it'll become more and more normal. It's like, it makes so much sense that to try and solve all our mental problems ourselves it's challenging. So to have someone who can just brainstorm with, who can give that third-party perspective, objectivity, it helps immensely. I've had it for years now where I've sought out many different coaches for different areas of life, and each time I do, I learn something new. And then those lessons carry on to the next thing I do, and they last. It's so expansive. It's crazy not to, but people have to experience it to appreciate it.
Hindsight's a funny thing. You can talk about it, and if you haven't experienced it, but people will get there. And I strongly agree. One of my biggest passions at the moment is realizing that the rebellious thing to do one day will be not seeking professional help. Like exactly what you said. That does have to happen. And I trust that we're being advocates for that and changing the industry of feel. You've got to be digging your journey. Like, if you're not enjoying your journey, don't do it. And I've literally told people that have hard substance abuse, I say, if you're loving where you're at, go and do it. When no one else would say that to them, they're like, oh, you need help. No. Mate, go and love what you're doing. Once you start feeling guilty about the behaviour, then it's probably time to look at stopping it. But that's an amazing way to look at it, isn't it? That we start a business, so we're going to grab our accountant because that's what required. Oh, we're starting a family, I better put healthcare in, I better put insurance in place. I'm going to put all of these things in place to help me with reducing stress and setting myself up for success. But when it comes to mental health, it's like, And I think that does come from many, many years ago that when, yes, individuals experienced mental health, because we didn't know about it, it was taboo. It was like someone that was coming forward with the ideas of being connected with a greater being or with the other side of life was seen as a witch. They had to be put on a stake and burned. It's like, oh, we don't know what you're doing. Someone with experiencing mental health that was destructive to themselves would be seen as a crazy person. It's disgusting, I know, but this is the evolution of human beings. There's only so much that we can do. We've just got to continue to show people like these conversations. We're talking about substance addiction and we're laughing about it and with it. And that's the approach. I say to my clients, like, if we don't laugh along the way, I'm really sorry, but I'll find you someone else. I'm not here to have constant, deep, down, depressed, sad sessions. They are required. They are. But we've got to have it with a bit of sparkle, a bit of jazz and a bit of fun.
Agreed. Well said. And I think more and more, as well as mental health, even talking about sex more, relationships seeking assistance, people with body image issues, whatever it may be. It's so funny to look at the evolution of consciousness, and this is before we go too deep.
We're not doing that.
And like 5 hours later. Yeah, I mean, even 100 years ago, you wouldn't get someone who's saying, hey, I want to improve the shape of my pectorials. Where may I get some professional assistance? Or a woman saying, I'd love to improve my thigh gap. It wouldn't have happened back then. Whereas now that is so normal.
Yeah.
It's so normal for someone to say, I want to improve my abs. I want to improve I want my butt to be more round. So eventually the same thing will happen with, hey, I want a better sex life. Or hey, I want better health and well-being mentally. Hey, I want to create more wealth. How do I do all these things sort of healthily and functionally so that they're working with the other areas of life? Because I think it's great to seek success in one area, but if it's not also working in harmony with some of the others, then we don't want to end up where one area is succeeding at the detriment to another. So I think that I'm such an advocate for a holistic approach to well-being. Where all areas of life are working in harmony with one another, because then it's sustainable. Whereas sometimes people go, I'm going to become the healthiest person ever, or I'm going to become so successful in my business, or all I care about is just finding a partner and having companionship, and then they may neglect a couple other areas, and eventually that catches up. So they then they hit a hurdle again.
And that's a really common problem when it comes to substance reduction. And you probably notice I say that word a lot because I really appreciate it. I really appreciate substance reduction. A lot of individuals are so scared and so worried about going down letting go of their drinking or their drug use or cocaine or whatever it is, because they think it's one or the other. They either are a part of the tribe and they're allowed to do it, or they're totally sober. And that is one of the biggest blocks for people to reach out, because they think they're about to be told that they're never allowed to do it again. It has nothing to do with that. As people are listening here, it's an emotional intelligence game. So I really love, and I'm doing my best to really use this substance or alcohol reduction journey. And guess what? If some people choose sobriety, that's fantastic. It'll work even better for them because they're choosing it.
Yeah.
When you mentioned, it's such a holistic approach, I'm a big believer in that, because I know personally individuals who have done 2-3 real rehabilitation stints, 3-4 weeks at a time, they come out, they're focused on the problem for 3 weeks, but when they come back out, they get back into how they were when it comes to their intimate partner relationship. They get back into where they were with their career and how their relationship was with their health and fitness. And before they know it, they plateau again. They're not that happy with those 3 fundamental major areas of life, and that's too much stress, so they go back to the addiction again for the stress reduction. We've got to look after, in the beginning, quite often, a clinic and a rehabilitation can be perfect for an individual. For long-term change, it's got to be a holistic approach, because as we've discussed throughout this talk, if we're using addictive patterns for stress reduction, long-term approach is to learn how to release and let go of stress, and then have our strategies that we may have learned at a rehabilitation clinic for when those stresses, arise.
Love it. And building up the self-esteem and feeling of self-worth to know that we all deserve a great life. It's possible for everyone. The only difference is between those who achieve it and those who don't, is the ones who do believe they were worthy of it, and then they put the work in to go out and achieve it. And I think it's one thing to overcome a so-called problem, a challenge, addiction, or what have you, yet building the life skills to complement it. So getting clear on a vision that we want for our life. Where do we really want to head? Because as you were saying, that sometimes if people break free of an addiction, and in fact, I've even had close people in a family network who have had certain addictions, relatives, etc., and they've said, well, if I didn't have this, what else have I got? So it's having something else to move on to. So it's about developing a self-esteem to go, I am more than my addiction, and I want to work towards something that's meaningful and fulfilling. So it's I believe that it's such a powerful tool, and key is getting clear on where do we want to go once we break free of some habits that we don't want anymore. So share with us a little bit, Tom, about what do you think is key for maintaining new healthy habits? So to add, even in my own personal life and my experiences, as you were saying, it doesn't have to be one or the other. So I'm not a big drinker. I have been throughout my life, where on certain special occasions, that sort of thing, I love a good drink. Whereas now, as I find my life fills up with more and more meaningful things, such as writing a book, building programs, having more health goals and that sort of thing. So it's all forward-moving, progressive goals that I'm aspiring towards. I have this big vision where I want to be in 10 years, 20 years' time. It's sort of mapped out. So for me, for example, what helps me to say no to an excessive night of drinking or something is that the next day I've got certain things I want to get done. Mm-hmm. And they're more important to me than the night of drinking, which I've done 1,000 times. So I think without that, though, it's very easy to fall into, oh, well, I don't have much on tomorrow, so I've already had a few drinks and it's a lot of fun, so I'll keep going. Versus, well, I've had a few drinks, I've already had a good time, how much more fun will I have if I have another 10 versus maybe another 1 or 2? And then I'll wake up fresh tomorrow, I can exercise and I can do some of the other work that's more meaningful to me. Yep. And then by the end of tomorrow, I feel super fulfilled versus I had the bender, the next day, couch potato, junk food, destroyed all the goals that I wanted to achieve that day. So what are your thoughts on, what is your approach to helping people, say, break the so-called dysfunctional addictions and then creating that positive, lasting change? What's some of your approach to that?
So you mentioned it already, which is building a vision.
Yeah.
So many individuals ask me, it's like, we ask for the secret pill, the antidote. We're gonna hear it one day and be like, oh, I heard it. Yeah. Oh, done. No problem anymore. Yeah. Long-term change, I believe the antidote to addiction is build a life you no longer want to run away from.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah. And that's what you were talking about. It's like, and very similar to myself, I can go out, have a couple of drinks. If I don't know what I'm working on the next day and over the coming weeks, well then, I may as well run away from it. Or if I know that I'm going to have to do something I don't want to do, like go into work for someone or something that I didn't like back in the day, then I'm going to run away from that. Yeah. If I knew I had to go back to someone intimately that I didn't really want to be with, I'm going to run away from that. Yeah. If I knew that I had to go back to a couch and ask myself the question of like, do I want to get out of bed this morning? I don't want to deal with that, so I'm going to run away from it. So long-term change comes from holistically building a life you no longer want to run away from.
Yeah, I love that.
And that starts with building a vision. And I'm really passionate about saying, please, for anyone on the long-term addiction recovery journey, do not aim for a life of stability. Do not aim for a life of stability. Traditional approaches to overcoming addiction is stabilization. And it's why the readmission percentage is so high into people that are trying to overcome addiction. They go back because they set themselves up for stabilization. But we stabilize and then we plateau, and then all of a sudden it's discomforting. We're not happy with where we're at. So build a vision that's almost out of reach. Don't settle for stability. Like really build a vision that's almost out of reach. Yeah. And that starts with maybe 10 years, maybe 15, or maybe 20. And once again, if you're not too sure how to do that, grab 10 minutes of a professional's time. I just ask someone, reach out to me, I'll send a free PDF. There's so many ways to do that. Yeah. That's where you begin. Yeah. Don't settle for second best. Yeah. I'm not a fan of the term don't bite off too much more than you can chew. I'm not a fan of that, because the ideal life and my dreams that I'm living, and this is actually my dream life that I'm living right now, I set this 5 years ago thinking that I'll never reach it, and I've reached it. Yeah. And it's funny because now that I've reached it is the first time really in the last few years where the brain's coming up with you could probably just drink now. Yeah. It's like, there's nothing, you know what I mean? What's next?
Yeah. What's that forward to? Yeah. I've kind of done all I wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. So my first thinking, now knowing what I know, was call a coach. I just signed up for another 6 months of coaching. It's like, wow, what's the next 10 years? So always go after more than you can chew. Yeah. There's a famous quote that says, you've got to be willing to push past your limits to know what they are. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. Like you have to push past your limit to know what they are. Yeah. And when it comes to addiction, a lot of the things you hear is like, just make sure you've got a job. And this is how they talk. Just make sure you've got a job, and stick with that partner because it's better than not having one. And make sure your finances are looked after. It's like, stability? No, that's the cause of addiction.
Yeah, it's almost like you're moving through with a bit of fear and scarcity. Then it's like, I don't want to slip up. Every step I take is to not make a mistake, or I don't want to regress, versus, well, I'm here to expand. That's my personal motto, because for years I was I wouldn't say victim, but perfectionism. So everything's got to be so perfect, and if it's not perfect, I don't want to do it. Versus, well, no, I'm here just to progress and expand and stretch, and there's a lot of discomfort in that. Yet a whole bunch of uncomfortable stretching we will still get so much further than a whole bunch of comfortable staying still.
There we go. You said it so well. A lot of people, as you're aware, I run a 90-day challenge.
Yeah.
And this is perfect to what you're saying. A lot of people say, well, Tom, I don't know if I should do the 90 days. Should I just do 2 weeks? And I say, what's your thinking behind that? Well, because if I do the 90 days, I might slip up. And I say, okay, would you rather do 2 weeks sober, or would you rather do 90 days and maybe within 90 days you drank 2 or 3 times? And they said, oh wow, I've never done 90 days and only drank 2 or 3 times. And so that'll be a massive stretch. And they're like, yeah, that'll be amazing. I'm like, great, let's do the 90 days. Exactly what you're saying. I'd much rather see someone build a life they love and every now and then have a slip up. It's called being human. Have a slip up, have a bender, run some guilty patterns and keep moving forward. But the mentality I bring to this is like, give me a better excuse. Once a client has been working with me for a while and they show up and they go, oh, I haven't done those goals because I'm just coming down, I've got to hydrate myself, I went out for 2 days non-stop. I say, okay, cool. I need something more than that because you've been doing that for years. So what's your next excuse? It needs to be bigger. Let's keep moving forward. You know what I mean? But they're waiting, they're hoping, their ego's hoping like, oh, I hope I get let off the hook because I'm a naughty boy. I shouldn't be worthy of living a dream. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, cool, let's do something bigger then. Like, let's keep moving forward. I love that mentality of like, give me a better excuse. People that are suffering with addiction often think like their problem's so much worse than others. And I just call them into the ring. I'm like, tell me what your problem is. Try to trump what I've heard before. You know what I mean? Tell me. Like, what was it? Because we can go from the most serious, in-depth addiction pattern someone has run, people that have stepped over their own morals, just like I've done in the past, stole, cheat, inflict physical harm to others, suicidal thoughts. I remember sitting in my car with a bottle of Jim Beam, almost wanting to drive it off a cliff and thinking about that and working with clients who have experienced suicidal thoughts and self-harm. So I'm like, bring it on. What have you got? You can't give me an excuse where you are no longer worthy of living your dream.
Wow, I love that. What's your biggest excuse? That's so good. And I love that idea of reflecting, go, well, what excuses am I making for myself? Are they true? Is there maybe can I call myself on my own bullshit? I think that's one of the biggest things. Hey, we get to a point where we start knowing more, so it's too hard to go back to where we were because we can just call ourselves on our own bullshit. It's like, that's not true.
On this journey, you remove one of the biggest justifications, which is ignorance is bliss. And you remove that, you no longer have it. I think as a professional in this space and as a leader, you remove that because you educate yourself so much that you can't say, it was an accident, I didn't mean it, I don't feel like doing it today. You got to show up.
The excuses disappear, hey, and we seek truth rather than giving into our own bullshit and helping others to do the same. It's so liberating.
There's nothing someone could have done that means they are not worthy of living their life. Like nothing. And that's what we've got to realise. The toughest thing as well when it comes to addiction is like thinking that we need to go down the path of redemption as well. That can also be really tough. I know for me, the first 1 or 2 years in the coaching industry, I looked at it honestly, I was after redemption. I was wanting to pay back the world because of the pain and the things that I've done wrong. Even though I look at it now, I'm like, well, everyone's doing that. Everyone's just trying to live. Everyone, crosses their morals. Like everyone's doing the best that they can with what they have.
I completely agree that give yourself permission to be human, and that even the greatest have stuffed up, made mistakes, done things that they in one way regret, but then in another way it probably helped them to grow further. So in the end it all balances out. So it's just keep moving forward.
What are your thoughts on this? A great coach will never be a mirror of shame for you. A great coach will never be a mirror of shame for you. And that's so often my clients, like, sometimes they have a slip up and they're scared to message me.
Yes.
But every time they do, it's never followed up with a, why'd you do that? You know what I mean? It's that mentality of like, oh, good to know you're human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember when I did go to, I was seeing a psychologist, and I was like, you know what I mean? I tell her I had an anxiety attack. I told her like I was really hungover because I had a big night. And I was like, I just got so judged about it. I was like, oh, you know we're here not to do that anymore, Thomas. I'm like, what?
Yeah. All right, Tom, thank you so much for your time. There has been so much value. I trust the listeners have derived a ton of insight from these conversations. Thank you so much for your time. Before we wrap up, if you could leave maybe your key takeaways in terms of action steps for listeners who are maybe looking to make some positive change.
Yeah. Step one, realize that you don't have a big problem to solve. You actually want more from yourself. That'll make you feel much better about yourself. Step two, realize that vulnerability can be your biggest strength. And step three is don't expect to have the answers, expect to ask for help. Find one person in your tribe that may have a way forward for you.
Legend. Thank you so much for your time, brother.
It's been
great to see you.
So epic to be here. I absolutely loved it. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Talk soon.
There you have it, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Limitless with me, your host, Byron Sakha. If you found value in today's episode, then please do me a favor and drop me a review. I'd love to read what you have to say. And if there's any special requests you may have for future episodes so that we can keep delivering awesome value for you guys, please let us know. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe now on whichever platform you're connecting with us on, and be sure to share this episode with anyone you feel who can benefit from these episodes. And you can join us on this mission to helping people live limitlessly and obtain sustainable, lasting success. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach me at www.byronsakha.com or on my Instagram page at Byron Sakha, and I look forward to sharing the next episode with you soon.